You're watching the Central Post. This is Samiksha. In the rather dramatic twist to US President Donald Trump's trade playbook and one that directly impacts India, the United States Supreme Court had delivered what can only be called as constitutional reality check. In a 6-3 ruling, the court struck down Trump's sweeping global tariffs imposed under emergency powers. Yes, emergency powers for trade deficits, for drug inflows, and apparently for rewriting trade policy. And as you know, this matters to India immediately. Just weeks ago, Washington and New Delhi announced an interim trade framework. India agreed to scale back Russian oil purchases, said Donald Trump. In return, the United States tariff reduced on key Indian exports, textiles, pharmaceuticals, gems, bringing duties down to around 18%. Those reductions were linked to the broader tariff structure Trump had built using a 1977 law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. And that is the law that Supreme Court has now examined and rejected. US President Trump had invoked IEEPA to declare national emergencies and then impose tariffs of up to 25% on imports for nearly every country, including India. But Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, writing for the majority, was clear. IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. The power to tax imports rests with Congress, not with the executive branch, not through emergency declarations, and certainly not through expansive interpretation. And here's a politically uncomfortable detail. The majority included Trump's own appointees. Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. Bipartisan agreement in Washington is rare, but constitutional boundaries appear to be a unifying theme. The ruling effectively wipes out between $130 to $160 billion in collected tariffs, serious money, which now raises a serious question. Who gets it back? Importers, businesses, consumers, or does it disappear into prolonged refund legislation? That process could take months, possibly longer. Trump did not take the verdict quietly. At a White House press conference, he described the justices who ruled against him as fools, lapdogs, and a disgrace. He singled out his own nominees, expressing disappointment. It sounded less like legal disagreement, but more like a political betrayal. But if there is one pattern in Trump's approach to trade, it is persistence. Within hours, he signed a new executive order imposing a 10% global tariff on most imports, this time under Section 122 of 1974 Trade Act. Different law, same objective. The tariff is temporary, capped at 150 days, but it replaces much of what the court just struck down. So where does that leave India? While emergency tariffs gone, many Indian goods may now face the new 10% rate instead of higher previous duties. On paper, that could benefit exporters, but trade policy is not just about lower percentages. It is about stability, and when rules change this quickly, predictability becomes a real casualty. India's Commerce Ministry says it is studying the implications, a careful response. Opposition leaders, on the other hand, are calling for assessment. Trump, meanwhile, insists nothing changes and that his relationship with India remains fantastic. Except legally, quite a lot just changed. The Supreme Court has drawn a line on executive authority. The White House has responded with another route, and countries like India now have to navigate between the two, balancing opportunity with caution. Because in Washington, trade policy is no longer just about economics. It's about power, about limits, about how far emergency authorities can stretch before the Constitution quietly but firmly says enough. Stay tuned to Central Post as we'll keep you updated, because this story is far from over.